Good evening and welcome to the March 15th special edition of the Lower Makefield Park and Rec Board meeting. Tonight, we're going to dedicate tonight's meeting to the presentation of our findings from our needs assessment and strategic plan that Ann Toole is going to present regarding our long-term vision of the Lower Makefield Township Park and Rec. So the way this is going to work, there's a number of sections that Ann's going to cover. We'll probably leave public comment to the end. And then we'll give that, open it up to the board as well as public comment. So Ann, are you ready to
Yes.
Turn on your screen and introduce yourself and take it away?
Okay. Monica and I will tag team where we need to, or if that's good with everybody. We've been working pretty intensely on getting this all going for you, and it's very exciting. I want to thank each and every one of you for your full attention on this throughout, your generous hearts and souls, and providing the kind of information and feedback and insights that were all vital to producing this draft plan. So I just want to thank you very much for being there and doing all that you've done, including tonight, which is a special night meeting. So what you have in hand now is the entire draft. We actually, in the last few hours, assembled it as one PDF version. So you'll see the document as a unit too that Monica will distribute. So in my goal tonight is to help you get through the document so that you'll be able to make comments. Monica has shared the schedule with you as we move forward with revisions of this, the submission to the Board of Supervisors, their review, their revisions, public review, another set of revisions, and then hopefully adoption of the plan. So the document, it's about 100 pages. And there is a summary in the beginning to help you get going. So this is the reader's guide to the plan. There's a summary, there's an introduction to the plan. There's actually 5 chapters. There's an introduction that explains how we did it, what the process is, and the plan at a glance. It familiarizes you with the plan. The second chapter is a description of the Parks and Recreation system. It includes a functional analysis of everything that you do in Parks and Recreation, the facilities, the bike path system, recreation programming, organization, management, maintenance, and financing. So the second chapter is all background kind of information, the facts and figures of Parks and Recreation. This third chapter is really, really very important. It's the community needs assessment. The community needs assessment, as you know, was rooted in a robust public outreach process that included a public opinion survey where we got nearly 2,000 responses on that, focus groups, interviews, a couple of public meetings, work sessions. We did a little survey of the Lower Makefield seniors. We did a league survey to get facts and figures about league and sport needs. So that's all summarized in the community needs assessment, and that's the basis of this plan. The next section is our goals and recommendations. And the last chapter is the plan implementation. That's the strategic plan for moving forward now in the short term, and then it's going to take you at least 10 years to get through what you want to do. But having done your plan in 1995, I saw all the remarkable success that you have achieved over those decades. So I know the force is with you on this. That's the brief overview. I could drill down into these sections now, but I'd like to know if you have any comments or questions so far. Okay, then hearing none here, what I would like to do is go right to the priorities. Wait, let me back up a second. What we heard from the public in our needs assessment is that there is a need for more ball fields. There's a need to conserve open space. There's a need to achieve a balance between conservation and active recreation. There's a need to balance our facilities so that there's something for everyone. And that's how we got to our theme for this plan, which is play for all. That what we need to do is have the groups come together and recognize that the community at large benefits by public parks and recreation, and it's central to the quality of life. So the parks need to reflect that balance. They're not all for conservation or all for ball fields, that they need to be designed as true community parks that has a mix of ball fields, active recreation facilities, pathways, pavilions, restrooms, parking, game courts, really great playgrounds, all in one place. That's what we're hearing from the public. So that became our theme of play for all. That what we're looking at is you have a great system to work with. And so moving forward is tweaking that system to meet the important needs that were identified. Specifically, those needs were for more ball fields with solutions that can range from adding more to alternative surfaces like turf with lights, fixing Makefield. Makefield is overused, overdeveloped, and it has insufficient parking. So we're actually recommending that you retain a team of outside experts in traffic engineering, sports turf management, and landscape architecture to figure out what the solution is to those problems that we knew from day one existed. And some of the solutions tie into a few other things. The need for more open space. You have a short window of time left until you run out of open space or that it becomes developed. I mean, you look at the real estate market right now. So there are about 1,100 acres of land open and vulnerable remaining. So you have the potential to create additional space to accommodate more ball fields in a community setting that's balanced with other active recreation activities and facilities and conservation of natural resources. So the other need that we found is snipes. That snipes has been underway for about 18 years, and there's strong support for moving ahead with developing snipes. What we're recommending is updating the master plan with the theme of play for all, so that that site is developed with respect to the natural resources that are there and to accommodate a community park that's a blend of ball fields and facilities for general active recreation. So that would mean walking paths, pavilions, a play area, parking, restrooms, beautiful landscaping, and other other facilities, excuse me, that may emerge. But what what we're really advocating in our recommendations is that that be a balanced design. So once that's updated, that it go through the public process where the community comes in and reviews the updated master plan based upon the Play for All plan that we've done. We did the needs assessment. So the designers can go ahead and update it, have the community come in, look at it, provide input, revise that master plan, go back out to the public with the revisions based on public comment, and then move forward with developing the construction documents and moving ahead with bidding and actually carrying out the improvements in that site. The next area of improvement is to continue the bike path. That bike path emerged as a high priority. It's indeed the facility that's used the most by the public at large. They love your bike path. I do too. You actually have 25 miles of bike path on the ground. I would say that stacks up probably among the highest in municipalities in the Delaware Valley. That needs to continue. The challenge is the trail gaps. There are numerous gaps where it's going to be a challenge to secure that linkage. That's always hard. We do a lot of trail planning. That's the hardest part of it. So you've been very successful in getting grants for extending your trail network. With the federal funding that's underway right now, transportation is a big part of the infrastructure funding. So there's grant money available. Getting shovel ready on trails will enable you to tap that money. Kind of talking to the choir here because your township is so good at trail planning and securing grant funds for trails. So we're recommending your township operates, your operational and management system operates with excellence. And we're recommending that continue. This plan is a little different than most parks and recreation plans, where we would have extensive recommendations in management and programming. We have limited recommendations in those areas because you function at such a high level. Your staff is completely professional. The numbers speak for themselves. This Parks and Recreation Department recovers 75% of the cost of its operation. The national average is only 22%. So you're nearly 4 times in cost recovery what the national average is. In addition to that, you have 6 independent funds for parks. 4 of them are enterprise funds. That means they are dedicated to cost recovery to provide that public service. So you have, the pool and the golf course are, of course, great examples of that. And the golf course has a positive cash flow that's significant that will help to support parks and recreation improvements. Now, in terms of programming, the programming is excellent. You got great reviews and all the public outreach on your high quality programming, but you're kind of at a limit right now. And your limit is the number of staff people. They're already doing more than the lion's share that's normally done on programming. They can't do anymore. And adding staff is a challenge because you have very limited administrative space. They're housed in the community center. The community center in itself is undersized for what the demands and the needs are in the community. So there's a need to look at that. We're not saying that's an immediate priority, but that could be taken into into consideration when you look at more open space. If open space has buildings on it or something, where you may be able to get a partnership with a community-based organization. So the programming, in order to grow programming anymore, and you do have wait lists, is that you need more staff, but you need space to house that staff as well. So I just wanted to, on the operational excellence, talk about the department recovering its costs is remarkable. And so is the support of Parks and Recreation. It's $65 per capita investment annually in operating the Parks and Recreation system. In Pennsylvania, the average municipal investment's about $38 to $40. Nationally, the average is $88. So you're right there. Now the township also dedicates about 12% of its budget for Parks and Recreation, and has actually allocates 2.43 mils as a line item to Parks and Recreation. Again, that shows the strength of the support and the investment in Parks and Recreation. So what you'll see in the plan is the last chapter is all of the recommendations with a series of tables for the 5 goals that we have. Those 5 goals are to protect green space and provide a plan for their stewardship. It's not just having it, what you have, it's how you take care of it that's really important. And taking care of natural resources is kind of a new program area for you. Typically, maintenance with your limited staff devotes its time to mowing, trash and litter removal, and supporting ball fields. So Play for All is the second goal, and that's to continue to improve parks, recreation, and nature-based facilities. That's the balanced approach that we're talking about, to blend active, passive, and interest for all ages. The third goal is the third goal is connecting the township with safe places to walk and bicycle. And the fourth goal is engage residents in active, healthy living through recreation program services and facilities. And the last goal is about excellence in operations and financing. One of the toughest areas that you have, and we have a major recommendation on that, is on maintenance. You do have a maintenance plan, which is fabulous that your township has a Parks and Recreation maintenance plan. Few have that. And in order to maintain it and manage anything well, you have to track information and have a plan for it. And you have that. When we did some benchmarking on that, you have over 500 acres of typical parkland, and you have 5 maintenance staff. So that's a ratio of 1 worker for 100 acres. And the benchmark is about 1 staff person to 18 acres to 20 acres at the most. I sit on the National Recreation and Park Association's Board of Regents for maintenance. So I am fully aware of all that your maintenance staff accomplishes with the limited number of staff people that you have. You do hire seasonals in the summer, so that really helps a lot. Maintenance is really by far the hardest thing to nudge in a township budget, because especially when you have people that do really good work, there's a tendency to think they can do more. I think they're at their limit here when you think about the ratio of workers to the responsibilities that they have. There is some relief in that, because 5 Mile Woods is a very large tract that has really limited maintenance responsibilities. So that kind of mitigates your circumstances right now. And I know that this township and the Board of Supervisors and the township manager have been extremely supportive of staffing, and actually added a maintenance person. They're adding an aquatics manager and adding an administrative assistant. So they're right there all the time doing what they need to do to support. So your challenges and the recommendations in this plan are primarily facility and open space oriented. We did put a strategic plan in here so that you're not weighed down with hundreds of little tiny recommendations. So we have the recommendations in summary are to protect as much open space as possible. And if you could get a tract of 80 to 100 acres, that would really help solve your ball field problems and your play for all needs in the community. Move ahead with snipes. Upgrade your existing parks and recreation facilities. That includes moving ahead with your pool improvements, especially the restrooms at the pool, lighting Kiola ball fields, and extending Memorial Park. And then the next strategic plan is continue to advance the bicycle system. And you have 3 projects underway right now. That's a lot. Continue to do that, but we're recommending that you continue to work on your designs to get them shovel ready to tap the funding that's available at the federal and state level now. Maintenance, keep the parks clean and safe. Expand recreation opportunities in accordance with your staff capacity and your ability to support that kind of planning, and continue to support partnering with other organizations. The partnerships are key. The township can't do all this alone, and we see over and over the great partnerships that you have. Some new ones have emerged, and that's where some programming advances can be done. We had a great work session with Dr. Smith at Pennsbury School District and did some follow-up work with consulting with your neighboring municipalities. And what the purpose of that outreach was that we came to learn that our most needy group in terms of recreation opportunities are tweens and teens who get out of school and they're home between 3 and 6 o'clock, mostly by themselves, or, and the opportunities right now are heavily driven to sports. But once kids get into high school, because of the size of the system, there's very limited opportunities for them to make a team. So besides sports, we have music, art, drama, dance, STEM programs, bicycle clubs that kids could participate in, but you're at your capacity, and so are other municipalities. So we're recommending in the one programming main recommendation we have is to have a collaboration with your neighboring municipalities and the school district to see how you could jointly program for kids after school and during school holidays, including the summer. We're recommending that you pursue grant funding for this. It's actually a really easy grant to get. It's a $10,000 grant that's rolling. There's no deadline. The match is $1,000 that's can be divided among the participating municipalities and the school district. And it gives you a year to figure out if you want to work together on community recreation programming and how you would do that. So at the end of the year, if you decide, well, that's not a good idea, we didn't really lose much. And you probably gained a lot of insights in the conversation. But if you do want to work together, there's another grant that actually provides 4 years of funding on at the end of 4 years, it actually gives you half of what you need to fund another position for 4 years. So it's a rolling match where the first year you get 100% grant money, second year 75%, third year 50%, fourth year 25%. And during that time, over that 4 years, that person is working to create a sustainable way to keep that operation of programming going. So there's a lot of advantages to that. And we did sense a great need for this when we were doing our outreach, that serving the tweens and teens would be your next frontier in recreation programming. And it looks like you have a bunch of good partners that would help you. So there's where we are and how the document works and the big picture of what our recommendations are. I do have to apologize because you've heard these before. I don't think there's any surprise in here from all of our previous discussions. So what I would like to do is ask you, what questions do you have for me?
Before I open up the public comment, does the board have any specific questions for Ann? Specific questions for Ann?
Or comments too. Whatever.
I mean, obviously, yeah, most of us just got the deck yesterday, and section 5, the last one, which is the recommendation, most of us got it today. So I don't know if you have anything to share for that, because I didn't get to actually look at it today. What we wanted to do was have this meeting to explain where we got to and what how the document is organized, so that you kind of on the reader's guide version of this is that if I were you reading this document, I would go right to the last 2 chapters, and I would read excuse me, hold on a second. Let me see the name of this chapter. I'd read the community needs assessment and vision. I would read that first. Then that gives you what the priorities are, and then the goals. And then I would read the plan implementation, how the plan implementation is going to work. So that gives you where we're headed, and the preceding chapters all lay out the case for that, with what the public outreach findings, the demographics for the community, how this plan fits in with all your other planning, things like that. So it's 100 pages. So fatigue may set in. That's why we're kind of urging you to cut to the chase on this. You can't start with the executive summary, which is only 4 pages.
Just to follow up on what Ann said, I sent you a timeline in your email. So what we're kind of asking the board here is understand this is a draft. You might find typos at this point. We're very drafty, but we're asking for the board to go through the whole document over the next few weeks and return it to us with all of your questions and comments. If you want to do that in handwriting, if you want to do it directly on the document, you can. Ann and I will take a look at those questions and comments and kind of figure out how we could fit things into the document itself, or bring it to you the next meeting with answers to some of your questions that you might have. So that would be like the next step in this process as far as the board goes. And then the next meeting, hopefully we'd be in a position where you could make a decision more or less about how to proceed with the document.
Okay, Dennis, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Doug. And thank you again for a very nice summary of things. And my apologies to the group for joining a little bit late. But when I joined, you were talking about where Lower Makefield resides in terms of per capita outlay for Parks and Rec? I think you said $62 or something.
65.
65 versus 32 in the state and 88 federally. But prior to that, you had talked about the township also doing a very good job of recovering a lot of the outlays, like 75%. Is that 65 before the 65 per capita before we recover the money or after we've recovered the 75%?
The township invests $65 in Parks and Recreation, and then the Parks and Recreation Department generates revenues through fees and charges for programs, and that recovers its costs by 75% of the costs. The pool recovers all of its costs. The golf course has a positive cash flow. So the township's investing a basic amount to keep operations going, and then the Parks and Recreation Department generates that amount of revenue.
Okay, so it sounds like it's after, because that it says that's an outlay that's not recovered, but it would have been more had we not recovered any money. Is that a fair way to look at it?
I'm not
Are
sure.
you saying after cost recovery, the township still pays an additional $65 per resident? Is that what you're asking, Dennis?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Yeah, the township's paying $65,
Okay.
and yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Unrecovered funds, yeah.
Thank you.
Just to build on that, are you including the golf course in that? Or is it set? Because you mentioned it's cash flow, but that's a separate, and it's not
It's
part of that
separate.
$65
Yep.
expenditure, correct?
As the pool is too.
So they're not factored into that $65 amount at all.
No, not at all.
I had a quick question with regard to the, I think I had, hello? The $10,000 peer grant, mentioned that was with neighboring municipalities. Is that 10,000 for all municipalities, or do each municipality applies for 10,000?
No, it's a $10,000 grant because it's one project. So it's an $11,000 project, and DCNR pays for $10,000 and the partners share in the match of $1,000. It generally takes about a year to do those. I know that DCNR actually did a recent survey on that because $10,000 doesn't go very far, and it's the same. It's this they've had it's been $10,000 grant for like 15 years. So I know they're in the process of trying to increase that, but regardless of what that fee is or that grant is, you'd be able to pull off this project with a peer grant to decide if and how you would want to collaborate on recreation programming.
Can you elaborate a little bit about the 90 to 100 acre site? Obviously, you've identified one. Did you look within the map? Was there other sites that would qualify? I don't know how in depth you looked at that.
We just calculated what it would take to meet your needs for fields. We did not identify properties that would, you have 1,100 acres. If there were some appetite to pursue looking at open space, that's our recommendation, that you have a conversation about that to decide on the merits of that recommendation, the capacity of the township to enter into partnerships with any particular landowners, or to outright acquire it. Sometimes you get bargain sales. There's a whole list of things you could do to get open space, and ultimately it is acquisition, which we know in Lower Makefield would be very expensive.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Any questions from the public? Come on up and state your name and address. You know the drill, right? Thank you.
Sorry, I had to plug in.
Up on top, it's up here.
Hear me?
Mhm.
Thank you. Bill Gabota. I live at 1230 Ash Lane in Lower Makefield Township. Thanks to Ann for all the hard work. Thanks to Monica for all the hard work putting this in. I only have one question really. When can I see this draft plan? I've heard about it several times and I would really like to see it and study it.
Yeah, so as Monica alluded to, we just got the first draft yesterday.
I
right?
understand.
So it's in, as she put it, draft form. So we as a group have till the end of the month, the 3/28 to mark it up.
Mhm.
And at that point, then they're going to have to take all of our comments and feedback and then make any changes, edits. Some of it's just grammar, formatting. And then I believe then you'll publish it back out.
I believe so. I would like the Board of Supervisors to have a glance at it before that too, but they're going to be in the loop the whole time. So yeah, as soon as we have a good edited document right now, I mean, there's spelling errors and gaps in the, I actually don't even feel 100% good giving it to the board that way, to be
No,
honest. So I really wouldn't want to put it out to the public that way.
Yeah, I understand, but this is very important. And, like even seeing a draft plan, I mean, I wouldn't hold it against you if there are any misspellings or grammar.
Yeah, Bill, I promise you that we will put it available to the public before a decision is made about
Good.
by the Board of Supervisors.
That's going to be highly necessary. Thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Cawley, James Court, Yardley, PA. I was wondering why it's on the BOS agenda as item number 16, if there is no draft or anything like that to show. It's on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting.
This is not on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting. as
But it
far as I
says
know.
Snipes Tract, number 16 on the
No, they're-
agenda.
They're having a discussion about sewer proceeds,
Okay,
and there are a couple concepts that they're going to discuss at that meeting.
okay,
So I think that's really the long and short of that discussion. I don't know that it's anything
okay,
greater than an initial discussion.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
And for the Snipes component of the plan, just to be clear, your vision would be a complete restructuring, reevaluation, redrawing of what that project will look like. And the project that was approved 3 to 4 years ago, 5 years ago, would not be the approved plan that you're suggesting?
No, that's not actually not what I said. What I said was that we take the plan that has already had several revisions on that, and that we reevaluate that plan in light of our Play for All recommendations to ensure that that site is a true community park with a mix of athletic sport ball fields, game courts, pavilion, pathways, playground equipment, restrooms, support facilities for parking, water fountains, seating, to make sure that it's all of that it's balanced between active and passive, that the site be evaluated for planning on the site around appropriate natural resources that need conservation. So it's a 38-acre site. It's over 25 acres, so it's suitable for a community park. We recognize the work that's been done to date on that. It's the work stopped on the master plan for that site about 4 years ago. So it's just time for an update on it. You're not starting from ground zero.
Also something, Ann, I'm sorry, also something Ann didn't mention is that when we go through that process, there should be at least, she's recommending at least 2 community opportunities to be able to review and make notes
Yes.
on the plan. So it'd be a really community-driven process.
Mhm.
I think your point, Michael, is that the plan was built primarily around athletic
Yeah.
fields. So I
The
think
current plan is
the
three
current plan-
fields, a walkway, and a potential of a skate park. That,
But
to me,
so-
that's not a community park. So
Right,
if
so I
we're,
think-
but I hear what you're saying. I assume that there's a,
we're not going to take a white paper. I think.
Right,
Take
and
the
there's-
existing plan and modify it based on the new in assessment and components. So it will look different, but it won't be starting from white paper.
with community input. Continued. Thank you.
Any immediate comments? And do you have anything else you want to close with?
No, I would just reiterate what you just said about the public process, is that we're very strong advocates of public engagement here. We've had well over 2,500 citizens be able to give their input for this, and we recommend that very seriously continue, especially on the Snipes track. So I want to support what you just said. I think
Thank you
that's it.
again,
I
Ann.
just like to thank everybody for their involvement and work on this.
No,
It's
thank you
exciting.
again for all your time, Monica's time, thanking the board in advance to please take the necessary time to read through the materials. There's a lot of information here, a lot of good information, and we want to make sure that your comments, your input, your expertise gets relayed back to Monica and Ann, so that the finished product can be, exceptional. moving
And
forward.
sooner than the 28th is also okay. Just saying, the 28th is the deadline, but
Yeah,
sooner than the
and when she
28th is
means
also.
28th is the deadline, 28th is the deadline.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
um,
I appreciate that. Thank you all for your help, and thank you everybody for coming out. I am excited to include everybody and the public in this process. So thank you. It's great to see some young faces here too. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, just for the record, attending tonight were Dennis Wysocki, Kim Rock, Michael Brody, Mike Blundy, Dave Malinowski, Rob Labar, Doug Kraus. We also have Monica Tierney, and is James McCartney, liaison's not here tonight.
No, I'm here, Doug.
Oh.
I am.
All
Yes,
right.
I've been here the whole time. I'm just not on the screen. I actually had a question for Ann, if nobody else
Oh,
has
okay.
any other input.
Go
So
ahead,
Ann, I
James.
just want to circle. Yeah, I just want to circle back to the one point that you were talking about. It sounds almost like a joint venture, that there's grants available for joint ventures between the municipality and the school district. How do you, what's the framework for us to be able to maybe start exploring those options, with the school district, and, what's the best plan for us to kind of start putting some feelers out with that?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question, because I had found it to be one of the most exciting parts of this whole process, was meeting with Dr. Smith and his excitement about potential partnerships. There's several areas. The one is the programming, because he's really seeing the need there as a new superintendent, with fewer than 30% of the students participating in after-school programs. So he's a big advocate of this. I don't have the Lower Makefield percentage. That's for the school district as a whole. So Monica has already done outreach to municipalities. So your question about getting started is, it actually has been started. The next step would be to call a meeting, it could be on Zoom, to among the potential willing partners, to see if you want to pursue this grant, to explore multi-municipal programming. If you get at least one other partner, that's all you need, is one other partner. But we've projected that you could have like 4 or 5 partners in this. Then the next step would be to call DCNR, to Jean Lynch, to have a conversation with her about moving forward with this. Then you would do a grant application, which is really easy. And because the deadline is rolling, you could submit it whenever you want. Now, summer's coming up and Monica's going to be crazy busy. You might want to get this rolling so you could start in the fall. And it takes about a month only to get grant approval on a peer project. Then you get to hire a facilitator to help with managing the project and coming up with decisions about moving forward. So it's actually pretty easy.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, the specific thing that I'm talking about is the partnership that I'm envisioning is something between, you said it would have to be, say, Lower Makefield, Yardley Borough, and or Falls Township and the Pennsbury School District?
Well, if it's just you and one other one, it would work. Multi-municipal just means two. It could be with the school district. I've never seen that arrangement with just you and the school district, but we've gotten some good feedback from the boroughs and the townships in the school district to pursue this together, at least to talk about it.
Well, and I think that from my standpoint, the important part of including the school district is that the school district has a potential asset where this could take place. The middle school complex is, we've talked about this as far as, it's set up with egress on two major roads. There's adequate parking already. There's plenty of field space. So if there is some type of grant out there that allows us to partner with the school district to provide additional space for, whether it's recreational sports or whether it's organized sports, we should definitely, it's something that we should be looking at. I mean, I would leave it up to Doug or Monica. Is it something that we want to invite Mr. Smith to come to a Parks and Recs meeting to have this conversation with?
I don't know that you need to do that. I don't need that. No, I actually think the next step is having a if the township agrees that and it sounds like y'all do, if you agree this is a good idea, then just set up a Zoom meeting with a rep of each township park and rec department or whoever they want to send and Dr. Smith. And you could do this on a Zoom meeting to decide how about moving forward. Do you want to get a grant? Do you want to talk about this? Who wants to explore? And then you're ready to go.
Are there parameters to the grant? Because you mentioned it was it a $10,000, right? That's the amount, right? And
Yeah.
are there parameters to the grant? Like, is it for specific activities?
No, the purpose would be to explore the potential to collaborate on recreation programming. And in your case, it would be aimed at middle school and high school. And whatever activities that, would come out of that, like you would do planning with the kids to find out what they would like to pursue. And that's kind of getting into the weeds, where the purpose of the grant really is to decide, do we want to have a partnership, what we're going to partner on, and what the rules are for how you're going to work together. Then if you decide that you do want to do that and you want a staff person, then you could pursue the second grant that I was referring to. That's called a circuit rider, where you decide collaboratively that, yeah, this is big enough and important enough. We want to share a staff person. And again, on sharing that staff person, what happens is if you have a total of 4 partners and you have a grant over 4 years to fund, which in essence is half the salary over 4 years, that half is divided by 4. So you're not, no one municipality has to provide 100% of that. You're sharing costs and benefits. That's the rationale for the whole thing. So
Does that
it's
second-
more organizational
sorry.
and management. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, yeah, so yeah, just to clarify, that second part of the grant then really is just covering the administrative part of it, not necessarily infrastructure.
No, it's not for facilities at all. That
Okay.
yeah, this is a program grant. If you wanted to do it's like a facility sharing one, there's another kind of grant that you could get. It's a planning grant that DCNR funds. And we've worked on those before, where municipalities decide if they want to go together to buy a property. That's kind of up in Monroe County. That happened several times, where municipalities decide to jointly buy and improve and maintain our recreation facilities. We don't have that as a recommendation.
So that would be more land acquisition. That wouldn't necessarily be
Right,
existing facilities updates.
right.
Okay.
Do you have something in mind?
Well, no, I mean, I'm referring back to the middle school complex. I mean, I think that's an underutilized and kind of mismanaged asset that we share with the school district that has capabilities of maybe serving some of these needs.
Well, we do have a recommendation for that one of our recommendations is to do an assessment of all the parks, and you could include schools there, properties and facilities, to see how they can be upgraded to meet your needs. What we really focused on were the ones that are kind of staring us in the face kind of needs, but we did not do a full facility assessment as part of this project to keep in line with what your budget was. In other projects like this that are more funded, there would have been an assessment of all the facilities. What you did was absolutely the right approach, that you could decide to invest in having a facility assessment of all your sites, if that's something that you would like to do. And that middle school complex really is very interesting. So that falls in line with one of our recommendations. And it also falls in line with the school district's, the superintendent's expression of pursuing partnerships. And I'd like to hop in on that one too, is that we did talk about an indoor swimming pool and gymnasiums. And there's always a shortage of gyms. We can't get enough gyms, but that pool is in need of repair. And your indoor spaces are, your community center is undersized for what you need. So the school district and you both have needs for more space and different facilities. We did find in our assessment that your swim team that is at the pool at Lower Makefield Township has an awesome facility. But during the height of the real swimming season, during the school year, the pool situation is dire, and your residents are now going to New Jersey, Montgomery County, Bucks County, all over for swim. So when we heard that the school district is planning within 3 years to upgrade that pool, there may be a possibility there of you collaborating on more indoor recreation space. We've worked on examples elsewhere where school districts and municipalities join forces to share, to improve, develop, and maintain indoor spaces. so that they're used for the schools from 7 to 3, and then from 3 to 10 and on the weekends, they're under the purview of the Parks and Recreation system. Northampton Township operates this way in Council Rock and some of the schools. So there's precedent for this, and it's something that I think is a pretty exciting possibility for you. And it's not immediate. I mean, you have some time to be thinking about this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it's definitely interesting to understand if there's opportunities for land development with neighboring municipalities, especially, given some shared resources for field availability. Maybe certain types of fields or sports might be separate, but there might be other opportunities where the needs are common among the municipalities. So I know that you said that wasn't in the recommendation, but would definitely be something to look at.
We have that. Well, it's kind of under, we have a general recommendation to do an assessment of facilities that was beyond what we could do in this project. So that the plan would support you doing that.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Peter Solar, 28 Edgewood Road. A question for Ann, or more actually asking for just to restate the programming thing again from her. I believe the comment about coordinating with the township, with the other townships in the school district, was with regard to the 70% of kids that are not currently engaged in after-school activities. And it seems like, that's a very different than where a lot of the comments have been coming the last few minutes. So what sort of programs would typically happen under this? What's been discussed so far? Is just suggestions with the school district, or is it just an opening, and once the grants started and the process goes forward, seeing what opportunities would be to develop programs for after school?
All right. Is your question on what programs would be provided?
Not specifically what programs, but obviously we're talking to Dr. Smith and the other municipalities around here, and it sounds like the goal is to try to engage a larger number of kids that aren't currently engaged in organized activities, which is very different from saying, can the leagues use the fields? So what sort of discussion has there been, or has this all been very preliminary, that people are very interested in coming up with something, but nothing's on the table yet?
You're absolutely right. It's new. That was one of the great reasons, or one of the great outcomes of this plan, is that was a finding that we came up with based upon public outreach, and especially in collaborating with the school district on what community recreation needs are. We would recommend that if it's possible to get the breakdown on what the students in Lower Makefield Township, what their level of participation is. But from my anecdotal discussions in the community, I don't think that it's too far off. That one of the findings was that, yes, sports is good, but sports is good. We need to support that. Sports help kids lifelong. And there are other pursuits that tweens and teens don't have. We know from national research that kids start dropping out of sports at the age of 12 because it's not fun for them anymore. So what are the alternatives? There's music, art, drama, dance, the STEM programs, volunteerism, nature and environmental kinds of programs. There's some collaboration on studies with schools, things like that. We always recommend that programming be done with kids, not for them, especially in that age group of the tweens and teens. But when we look at the effects of COVID, the screen time, the lack of physical activity, the levels of fitness, that it's really important to look at that. I'm really grateful that you stepped up to ask these questions.
Thank you.
Just to add on to what Ann said, Ann, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Dr. Smith had sent out a survey to the students and parents of the school district asking the type of activities that they would like to engage in. So I think that's something that he's pursuing on his own. We
Oh, I
have not
forgot
seen
about
those
that.
results. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I recall that, but I can
Yeah.
tell you anecdotally, as we have summer camp this year, many parents of 11 to 13-year-olds, camp goes until 12, but many parents were calling us, aren't you going to do something for that middle age teenager? Please, can you offer a camp? Can we send my kid? My kid's a good kid. So we actually ended up expanding our camp this year to teen and tween, to have a teen and tween specific program. So we're going to have a group of teen and tweens this year because of that need. So I can tell you anecdotally, that age group has, we really don't have offerings for them. So I think this would be a great program.
All right, if there's no other additional questions, you have something else, Mike?
I was wondering, do you happen to know, somebody at baseball was telling me the other day, actually, that Guzikowski Farm in Falls, which is like on Stony Hill, kind of right before Route 1.
Mhm.
I think it might be Falls Township owned or potentially deed restricted or something along those lines.
Mhm.
It would be interesting to know, I know you speak with Falls, but it'd be interesting to know if they had any sort of master plan for that. Because that would be a big open space that lines up to Route 1. So if they were considering some sort of development there in terms of park space or anything like that, that would be another potential idea, at least.
Possibly. I actually talked to the Falls director tonight. So I have a call into him because I want to see what their open space situation per population is. So I can talk to him tomorrow and even just quick
At least an
ask.
Interesting idea. And I was like, "Hmm."
Some outside the box thinking for sure. Yeah.
If there's no further questions from the board of the public, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
All right.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.